Whenever we talk about the economy, our minds usually go straight to things happening on land, right? Factories, farms, cities. But what if I told you there's this absolutely massive economic engine, mostly unseen, that covers more than 70% of our planet? Well, today, that's what we're diving into, the blue economy.
So just to get a sense of the scale we're talking about here, a staggering 71% of our planet's surface is covered by oceans and seas. That's more than 2/3. They're not just big pools of water. They are literally the lifeblood of our world, generating the oxygen we breathe and acting as the superhighways for our entire global economy.
And I'm not exaggerating when I say highways. Think about this. An estimated 80% of the volume of all world trade is carried by sea. Yeah, 80%. From the phone in your hand to the coffee in your cup, there's a really good chance a huge chunk of its journey happened on the water. Okay, so all of that activity, what does it add up to in terms of money? Well, it translates into some enormous economic value. The ocean economy is projected to be worth an incredible $3 trillion by 2030. And get this, it's actually growing faster than the global economy as a whole. And that's why suddenly everyone is paying very, very close attention. So you've got this whole world of economic activity happening just offshore, largely out of sight and out of mind for most of us. But as we start to really grasp its huge potential, and as the pressures of climate change force us to look for new solutions, a really critical question starts to pop up. And that question is, what exactly makes an economy blue? Because it's not just about, doing business on the water. It's about a fundamental, deep shift in how we think about our oceans. A shift from the old, traditional model to one that's genuinely sustainable. Okay, this is a really important distinction. For decades, we've basically had what you could call an ocean economy. The primary focus there? Simple. Maximize profits, extract resources. And that, as you can imagine, often leads to depletion and damage. But the blue economy? Well, that's a whole different animal. The goal here is to build sustainability and social fairness right into the DNA of the model. And this really gets to the core of it. The blue economy is all about one thing: balance. It's a framework where any economic activity is completely tied to the long-term health of the ocean. The big, ambitious goal: to finally break the link between economic growth and environmental damage. So what does that balance actually look like? Well, a true blue economy isn't just about being green or focusing only on sustainability. It's much bigger than that. It also has to deliver real economic growth. It has to include coastal communities so they benefit. It has to protect people's livelihoods. And it has to actively work to restore ecosystems. It's the whole package, a truly holistic approach. All right, so that's the theory, but what does this look like in the real world, in action? Well, the blue economy isn't just one single industry. It's this huge collection of different sectors, some that have been around forever and some that are brand new. So on one side, you've got the established players, think shipping, ports, tourism. These guys are being pushed, and rightly so, to decarbonize and use cleaner tech. And that's a massive challenge for naval architects and engineers. But then, on the other side, you have these incredibly exciting new fields popping up: offshore wind farms, sustainable fish farming, marine biotechnology. I mean, the potential is just enormous. But all this rapid growth creates not just opportunity, but a ton of complexity. And that complexity? Well, it leads us straight to the central challenge. As all of these different sectors expand and grow, our oceans are getting, for lack of a better word, crowded. And with that crowding comes a new and very real risk: conflict. This quote here really nails the central tension we're facing. This incredible expansion, what some people are calling the blue acceleration, it just means more and more competition for the same limited ocean space. And that's leading to some pretty inevitable friction between different industries and different interests. And you can really see that growth right here. I mean, look at this. Sectors like offshore wind, aquaculture, shipping, they aren't just growing, they're surging, and all at the same time. So you might have a new wind farm that needs the exact same patch of ocean that a fishing fleet has used for generations, or a busy shipping lane that cuts right through the migration path of whales, which, by the way, a local tourism industry depends on. They are quite literally on a collision course. And these collisions, they're not always obvious. It's not just about fighting for physical space. We're talking about things like noise pollution from ships that messes with marine mammals, or pollution from one industry that ruins the business of another. We're talking about the destruction of critical habitats like coral reefs, which are the nurseries for the very fish we want to catch. And maybe most importantly, we're seeing this growing tension between huge industrial players and the small-scale fishers who have depended on these waters for centuries.
You know, some people might think sticking with the business as usual approach is the easy way out, but it's actually incredibly expensive. Just get your head around this number. Because of poor fisheries management alone, the world is leaving more than $80 billion in revenue on the table every single year. That right there shows you that sustainability isn't just some nice environmental goal. It's a massive financial opportunity just waiting to be unlocked.
So this brings us to the big question, probably the most important part of this whole discussion. How do we navigate this future? Because for coastal nations, and especially for developing countries like Pakistan, getting this right isn't just a nice to have. It is an absolute non-negotiable necessity.
I mean, think about it. For so many of the world's least developed countries, and for small island nations, the ocean isn't just part of their economy. It is their economy. It's where the food comes from, it's where the jobs are, it's a core part of their culture and identity. For them, a healthy, productive ocean is literally the foundation for their entire future.
So, what's the solution? How do we actually do this? Well, the good news is that experts have laid out a pretty clear roadmap. It starts with smart planning, something called marine spatial planning. You can think of it like city zoning, but for the ocean, deciding what activities can happen where to minimize conflict. It also means we need stronger rules and better enforcement. We need to base our decisions on the best science we have, and this is crucial. We need to make sure everyone, from a local fisher to a giant corporation, has a fair say at the table. And finally, we need new ways to pay for it all, with things like blue bonds to fund these big, sustainable projects.
And ultimately, this is the huge mental shift we need to make. We have to stop seeing the ocean as this bottomless pit of resources that we can just take from, and start treating its health as our most valuable asset, the essential capital that supports all ocean prosperity. It's simple, really. A healthy ocean is a productive ocean. A regenerative approach isn't just about doing less damage, it's about actively making the ecosystem healthier and more resilient. Which brings us to one final, critical question. We're really at a crossroads here. The blue economy is surging. Its potential is undeniable. But the choice is ours to make. Are we going to continue with the old model of short-term extraction, the one that creates conflict and degrades the very resource we depend on? Or are we going to make the smart, strategic investment in long-term stewardship for a future that's not only prosperous, but also sustainable? The answer to that question is going to define the health of our planet for generations to come.